I want to thank you again, Chairman Rupp, for coming, and Board Member Tom Deller here going to talk to us some about RIPTA, which might also touch on some of the things you were asking about too, Representative Washington. Just so folks know what else is on our agenda, we also have Ed Cooney, who's going to be he's the VP and Treasurer at Nortec, but he's actually going to be talking in his role as the co-chair of the Transit 2020 Action Committee. And then we'll be concluding with John Flaherty, the Coalition for Transportation Choices. Mr. Rupp and Mr. Deller, thank you.
Excuse me. Thanks, Tom. I'm John Rupp. I'm the chairman of the board of directors at RIPTA. I want to say up front, I am not a transit person. I'm associate general counsel with Textron, which, by the way, is a big backer of transit. But that all said, I got on the board. I spent my first year on the board looking at and trying to understand transit in Rhode Island, trying to understand what RIPTA was doing, trying to understand the problems that we were having. The first thing I learned was that RIPTA is far too important and far too valuable to Rhode Island to be allowed to fail. I came on then as chairman at a time when we were in a very serious crisis, when the fuel was up over $4 a gallon, when ridership was skyrocketing, and as we say, the conundrum on fuel prices, nobody was buying gasoline. But with Tom's fine assistance and leadership, we decided that we were not going to cut service. We were going to do everything we could till we ran out of money. And I think that will kept it going, but it also demonstrated to, I think, to the legislature and others, the true viability of RIPTA, the flexibility, but the need to move people. With that, we decided that we had to go forward on a much broader basis. One of RIPTA's shortcomings was, I think, not really understanding the needs of the state, providing the growth plans to come out, and therefore put a funding plan together to show what's really available. And I want to say first, as a board, our job is to set challenges for the staff. You're going to hear some very good things coming out of RIPTA, which are the accomplishments of the staff. People have worked very hard, they have vision, and they're making things happen. One of the things we learned and we've been able to respond to quickly in this economy is the value of RIPTA to the Rhode Island economy. We have a lot of people who don't have great jobs. We have a lot of people who depend on transit. We have jobs coming in that are not jobs that are going to allow people to buy a second car to drive to work. We have to find a way to get them to their employment. We have to have mobility, and we have the flexibility and mobility to do that. We're working on a strategic plan that's accomplishing that. In the interim, we've been able to achieve that through a variety of different service mixes, which are just coming to the fore and being better publicized, I guess the best way to put it. One of the things, though, that to focus on the funding issue, it was said recently that for the first time in history, the federal energy policy contradicts directly the federal transit policy. We are now relying on motor fuel taxes throughout most of the United States, and yet we're creating an energy policy that's trying to up by 50% vehicle mileage, the CAFE standards. We're also working to take cars off the road for environmental reasons. That happens, and your sole source of funding is the fuel tax. Revenues go down. But, again, when I say RIPTA is too important to be allowed to fail, let's look at the green aspect of it. RIPTA is moving people. One bus operating on average takes 40 cars off the road. Full buses working efficiently take the pollution from 40 cars off the road. This is massive. This isn't something that's a figure to be thrown out. But our objective here is to broaden and more standardize the definition of transit so we can move people and move more people. If we're unfortunately, again, if we're successful with these green objectives, we lose money. It takes us about $4 to transport every rider for every dollar we get back. So, and fuel prices, again, are going up. Revenues going down, fuel prices going up. That all said, we are still focusing on growing. We can't let the vision go away. It's too important to Rhode Island. We have finally seen what transit values are, and the environmental part, of course, is very important to it, and we focused on that. I have to commend again Al Muscola, the current general manager of RIPTA, for having clean air has been one of his objectives since he's been here. We have the best diesel fleet for a city our size, state our size. We now have hybrid buses coming online. We will do better than anywhere in the country. We are working to keep, not only, if I say we can take the environmental impact of 40 automobiles off the road, we may do better than that in the next 5 years. We've developed a strategic plan, which Tom Deller is the head of the Strategic Planning Committee. The idea is to find yet better ways to move people more effectively and efficiently, to find and be more mobile and flexible to addressing the different shifting needs, not only in the Providence area, but throughout the state. We have flex bus service now that we're working in your area, Madam Chairman. We've now brought in Charles Abimwe, who's will be the new CEO of RIPTA starting next Monday. Charles has got much more of a planning background. We believe that we have the service side of it well managed. Now we're going to find people who have better planning experience, better focus on that, better working on growth opportunities and funding opportunities, how you can equate them with growth. Back to the bad news. We're going to have a significant budget deficit next year. Our budget relies primarily on wages and benefits. So we have a new union contract coming out that's increasing those. We're doing better than we expected in some areas, not as good in others, but it is growing. This year we plugged in $3.7 million of stimulus money into our budget to basically break even. We did that because at the end of the day, we felt we had that on the table. We couldn't go to the legislature to ask for more money when there are much more crying needs in Rhode Island, but that's not going to be there next year. We don't want to cut service. We are still working on the same mantra that we had before. We'll run out of money before we'll cut service. But we have to look for different ways to bring more revenues in. And as you'll hear from others, the motor fuel tax just won't do that. That I'd like to turn over to Tom.